what we're going to talk about here primarily is what you'll do in post to correct camera-induced perspective distortion. And then we'll take it one step further later and look at how in post we can creatively distort perspective with intention. Okay, understanding perspective starts with an imaginary horizon line. In most situations, it's not as simple as you're standing on a beach and looking out across the ocean and you see where the ocean ends and the sky begins. Any image that doesn't have a visible horizon line, it becomes a little bit tricky. What seems to work well for me is kind of a reverso Superman approach. What we'll do is establish a horizon line based on the photographer's viewpoint. I think we'll gain our most ground simply by looking at a couple of images and correcting some lens-induced perspective distortions and talking about it as we go. Okay, folks, let's look at establishing a horizon line and vanishing points. Initially, I will click on my background image, Control J, then I will right click on it and convert to a smart object. The first thing we want to do is establish a basic horizon line. And this doesn't have to be absolutely flawless. So we're going to just look at our image and ask ourselves the simple question, are we looking down on our subject, looking up at our subject, or looking eye level to our subject? We're clearly looking down on our subject. So we'll, with our rulers here, which were Control R, remember Control R cycles through adding or taking away our rulers. Now we reach up into our ruler bar, click, and we drag down a guide. And now I'm going to make this, because we are looking down on our subject, so our basic horizon line is probably somewhere in this direction because we are looking down on our subject. So first step, I'm going to rotate this line so that it feels good to my eye. It just feels a little bit steep. Control T, and we're going to rotate it just a hair. And that feels pretty good. And click OK. Now I need to add canvas size because my horizon is disappearing off in that direction. So I'll go to Image, Canvas Size. I'm going to click here, meaning it's going to add to the right. I'm going to change from inches to pixels, and I'm going to just add a 0 here to my width. It's going to be much more than I need, but that's going to be fine. I'll hit OK. Now it's given me all this area to the right. Control O will show the whole thing, and it's just given us canvas on this side. What we're going to do is we're going to take our line tool, and I'm going to click here at the bottom corner of that image. And now you can see if I move like this, we're watching right here on this part of the doorway until that matches up. And now that will give us the point out here where our horizon is going to cross. And I'm going to actually exaggerate it just a hair here. And I'm going to say, OK. Now, we're going to come back, and we're going to come to this line in the doorway. And I'm going to actually zoom in just a hair. Control plus, spacebar gives me a hand, so we can just see a little bit better what we're doing. And now this line right here, I'm going to click on it, and now we're going to drag it clear out here to the right and make it match the same place that our bottom line crossed, so that they cross at the same point, and hit enter. Now that gives us a vanishing point. Now I'll space back to this, and I'm going to say Control plus to bring my image back up. Now I don't need this part of the vanishing point and horizon lines anymore. So what I'm going to do is I am going to crop them out so that we can work on a larger image. So we'll hit our crop tool here, And I'll just start down here at the bottom. And I'm only going to save what we actually want. I'll hit enter, and it shows what's selected. There we go. So now these are the vanishing point lines that I need to line up to. This is my horizon line. It's not really that important anymore. Now I'll click my move tool. I'm going to click in my ruler bar, and I'm going to bring a line out, and I'm going to center it right on this little corner down here. And that's going to show me my true vertical on my doorway, which is going to be important to me. And I can actually do another one here for this side of the doorway, which is a little bit less important, but because the doorway is not that visible. Actually, the edge is out here, but it'll show me what I'm doing. So now I'm going to come back here, select my transform layer, Control T, and now I'm going to continue first to rotate it to match this line up a little bit better with our perspective. So now this distance between here and here, it doesn't have to be on the line, it just has to be an equal distance. So now that perspective line is correct. Now what we have to do is get the rest of this doorway to following correct perspective. And we can hold down, see, if we come here, this is just a scaling option. Well, we don't want to scale. What we want to do is hold down Control, and that gives us a distort option. Now I'm going to pull that upper part of the doorway down so that it is at a similar angle as far as our vanishing line. Now I have to come back and correct this one just a tiny bit. So it's going to be a back and forth playing with this thing. So now this distance is similar. Our line is still straight. And this distance between this line we can see here, this line we can see here, is true. Now let's look at our doorway over here. It's still a little off. And so we're going to pull this corner in, Control, grab this corner, pull it back to straighten the door a little on this side, while still maintaining those other perspectives. There's that. I got to pull this down just a hair to make that more even. There's that. Okay, so now I have an equal distance here, and here. So we'll say, okay, Control H will hide our guides, and we can put our horizon lines by clicking Shift and then Shift on the group icon. That'll group them together. Now we'll take those out. So now we're going to look at this image compared to where we were. Control O, Control minus just to bring it down here. So that's our original image, which the perspective just feels a little off. And this is our corrected perspective. That's how you get there. Now there's some cleanup and transformation and stuff that goes on out in these edges. We're not here to address all that. We're talking about cleaning up perspective initially. Let's look at another image. This image is amazing. I love interiors, especially old abandoned interiors. And perspectives are of primary importance on an interior, on anything architectural. Now here we can see this wall feels good. We're going to pull in a vertical guide, and we can see we have a perfect corner to work with already. This wall, on the other hand, feels a bit off. So we will start initially by establishing a horizon line. And our horizon in this image is pretty close to the middle of the image. We're not really shooting up on him or down on our subject. And how can we tell that? Well, we see how much of this inner frame rail we can see here on the window. We can see pretty close to the same amount below. So we're close to a centered horizon line. Now we need canvas to this side because our vanishing point is out here because we're shooting an interior looking out. So we will go to Image, Canvas Size. We're going to click on this side because we want to add to this side. We'll change to pixels, and we'll just add a 0 to boot us way, way out there. Now Control 0 will bring us and show us our whole view. What we're going to do is we're going to take our line tool. We'll come here, click here, and we're going to guide, and we're watching this edge. We're going to come way out here, getting that edge. I'm watching my window. I'm not watching my line out here. I don't really care where that comes. I'm watching my window, and there, that feels like a good edge. Boom. So now I have to intersect this point with this corner. Now we'll take this corner of the window, and we'll come up, and we're not worried about how it lines up right here. We're going to come out, and we're going to just simply make it intersect out here. Good. We'll hit enter. Now again, we don't need this canvas area. We'll go Control plus 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 space bar to give us a hand, and we will move over here. Now we'll get our crop tool, then we'll get rid of all this additional space that we don't need. Enter for my crop tool. Control plus plus, bring this up so I've got some room here. Okay, so this line is pretty far off. Now here's the hitch and the get along. It seems like we should bring this up to here, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make an equal gap between those. So I'm going to take my background layer, Control J, then I'll right click on my copy, convert to a smart object, Control T for my transform tool. Now the way that I'm going to make this an equal distance with this is I'm going to increase this side, and I'm going to pull this towards me. Okay. One thing I forgot to do is give myself a guide on this side to keep my windows straight, so I'll do that. Now I'm pulling this towards me and keeping my window straight. So now this distance is equal to that distance. Now I've lost just a little here by my pulling. Whenever you pull on one corner, it's going to distort the other corner, not as much, but to some degree. So now I'll pull this back and out just a hair. So what have I done by doing that? I've maintained the distance, equal distance here, and an equal distance between here and my edge, my guide and my edge. Equal distance here between my guide and my edge, guide and my edge. Now, have I distorted this side? No, that still looks pretty good. Okay, so we'll say OK. Control H hides my guides. I'm going to select my line there, Shift, select that one, and Shift, click on a group, and group them together. Now I can hide my line. So that's the corrected image, and that's the before and the corrected image. Let's take this the next step further. Creative distortion. One thing you're always asking again is, what do you love and what distracts from what you love? I love these deep angles and strong vanishing point out in this direction. This vanishing point is pointing in the same direction that our subject is looking, creating interest. I want to feel this area really strongly, and I can do that now by creatively distorting perspective. Now I'm not going to damage my good layer here that I just did. That's pretty close to true perspective. So I will click on it and Control J, duplicate it. Now I'm going to do my practice distortion. In fact, I'll just quickly name this distort with intent. And we'll just call this true. I'm going to select this layer, Control T. I'm going to exaggerate what we had. Remember, I asked, what do I like about this image? Well, I love all of this. Do I need more texture that's less interesting than this texture? No. So this out here, I don't really need this. It doesn't add anything to the picture or to the story. So I can grab here and I can continue this line out, exaggerating it a tiny bit, still keeping this true. Control H just to show my guides. I'm going to grab a guide here so that I can keep this window true, and then this guide will guide that window. Grab my corner here again, pull that out. Now that window, set of windows, is still vertically true. What I've done is I've distorted my perspective a tiny bit. I'm going to control minus, give myself a little bit more room, and I'm going to pull down here just a tiniest of, oops, it bounced on me. Sometimes when you let go, it shifts. Now I'll say OK. And Control H to hide my guides. Control plus to give us a bigger view. Now let's go back to the beginning. So here's what we started with. Didn't quite feel right. Tons of cool intention, tons of cool stuff. We pulled the perspective back to accurate, and maybe that's where you want to stop. Maybe you want to get a little deeper into the story by focusing the eye further in here. So we have the original, the corrected, and the massively overcorrected. Bit of a different feel. Okay, cool.